This one VSL makes over $750,000 a month, $25,000 plus a day. And I'm going to break it down and show you the major reasons why. I'm John Benson, and this is Sales Copy Secrets. All right, this is another one of my VSL breakdowns. I'm going to do it here in the home studio. I'm going to share my screen right now. You are looking at Dan Bilzerian's approach to dating. Okay, who's Dan? Very famous guy. But what's really interesting about this, and I'm going to refresh this page, start from the beginning, and I'm going to roll this down to the VSL. Interesting things here I'm going to tell you about. What makes this VSL work so well, and it's crushing it, he actually beat Dan's own control, is this is my friend Max, who's also my business partner in Lead Alchemy. And he is an expert at writing leads, as am I. And we are teaching a course called Lead Alchemy below on how you can become a lead alchemist and write leads for VSLs and sales letters. You already know they're online. You already know they work. And you can use BNSN.AI. We're going to teach you how to do that and, get this, how to build the copy business itself from the ground up. Me and Max is a genius at this. He's been at it for a couple of years, already built a sweet, highly lucrative business, and we're going to kick some ass. Look below, come join class. I'd love to have you. Now, I'm breaking this down, no, not because it's my buddy, but because he's a killer copywriter and this is making bank. So let's look at the reasons why right now.
It was one of the most painful experiences that I've ever had. And it wasn't until I learned this one thing that everything was about to change. If this sounds like you, you're gonna want to listen up.
Okay, right off the bat, most painful experience I've ever had. I learned one thing that's gonna change everything. I'm gonna share it with you. Listen up. What's he doing? Right off the bat, total emotional. He's really into the emotional aspect of the story. That right off the bat, you can tell he's not bullshitting. It sounds legit, right? One thing changed all that. He's going to go into what that one thing is. It's the one thing, one of the biggest things I teach in copywriting, having one big idea, and gives a command to listen, to pay attention right off the bat within less than 5 seconds of the VSL.
Because what I'm about to share with you is going to help you get over your divorce faster, find a woman that respects you, and build a lasting relationship. A relationship where she wants to be with you.
Now, listen to this. Okay, find a woman faster. Men want that. Get over your divorce fast. This is the target audience. Find somebody that wants to be with you. Notice it didn't say find another. It said find a woman that's a desirable woman. Great. But usually copywriters in there, they'll say, oh, that will help you lose weight. And what does that look like for me, pal? Well, listen to how he explains it.
Treat you like you should be treated and actually wants to have sex with you.
Oh, okay. Well, that sounds a lot more appealing than just find a desirable woman. Find somebody that will treat you the way you deserve to be treated. Someone that actually wants to have sex with you. Who do you think he's talking to? He's talking to guys that have been through a recent divorce, and a lot of these guys these are the problems that they're having. They weren't happily married. They didn't feel like they were sexually satisfied in their marriage. They didn't feel like their wives respected them. This is a very specific audience that he's going for, and he's talking directly at them. And this is less than a minute into the VSL. He's already laid out all these benefits, just one after the other.
I can't tell you how many times over 7 years of my marriage, I laid in bed inches away from my wife, afraid to touch her because I was tired of getting rejected. Night after night, the same thing happened. And while I thought I was doing the right thing by staying, what I didn't know was how much harm I was actually doing.
Okay, so this is tapping on so many emotional barriers here. Laying inches away from his wife for years, being afraid to touch her. That's like everybody that's been through this probably can relate to it. But he was saying, look, you don't always have to stay. Now, I'm not going to get into the morality of divorce, but we're just talking what the letter is saying. He's giving someone permission to be okay with the fact that they've got divorced. They might know that they have a large religious following and they didn't want to get divorced. That's kind of, sometimes it's against their religion, but sometimes they didn't have a choice. So maybe the wife left them, or maybe they had no other way to get out of it. And now he's talking to everyone. He's got a very inclusive opening couple of minutes here.
Culture has it all wrong. You've been told that you should.
Okay, our culture has it all wrong. What's that? Contrarian. We've gone from rapport building, from NLP, rapport building, strong benefits right off the bat, dimensional benefits. I don't just think, he didn't just tell me I'm going to find a desirable woman. That doesn't mean anything. What the does that even mean? Okay. What does it mean? Well, here's what it means. One that respects you, one that wants to be with you, one that will have sex with you. That's what it means. Okay. One that you're madly in love with, attracted to, whatever it may be. That's what he's doing. But now look what we're doing. We're moving into something completely different. It's contrarian, meaning everyone's got this wrong. So we're automatically tapping into this part of the brain that says, maybe this is different. I've heard information like this before, but maybe this time it's going to be different. Societal norms aren't always right.
Bend over backwards to please your wife's needs. And in the beginning, you do. You almost want to. Every day is a blast. You're having sex, things are fun, and then something happens. All of a sudden, you're just not good enough to meet her needs.
Okay, notice how quickly he painted the picture of before. Hey, it used to be like this. It was fun. You were having a blast, you're having sex all the time. Next thing you know, you're suddenly not good enough for her. Look what's on the screen. You're suddenly not good enough for her. Like this happened all of a sudden. Now, I'm not saying, again, this is how this happens. What I'm saying is this is how he's positioning it. Okay, let's continue on here.
She starts to magnify the flaws that you always had, flaws that you thought she was okay with. She starts
to magnify the flaws that you thought she was okay with. This is really great copy. The flaws that you know that you have. I mean, you're not silly. You know you got these flaws, right? But you thought she was okay with the flaws. I mean, this is painting a picture that a lot of guys who have been divorced can completely relate to. Like for years, like, oh, I'm totally fine with the fact that you want X, Y, or Z. And then all of a sudden it's like, that's the worst thing in the world, right? So this is really well done.
To try to force you to change, unhappy with who you are. And as you get more and more frustrated, you start to pull back. You start to resent her. The space grows and grows until one of you can't take it anymore.
Now, I want you to notice something else here. If you were to count the number of syllables in this copy and the number of words, they're not identical because not every word is one syllable. I want you to notice how many 1 and 2 syllable words that Max is using here. A ton. Simple language. I guarantee you this is at a 4th grade level. That's critical for high converting copy. Critical.
And then everything falls apart. You're filing for divorce, fighting for the kids,
right,
fighting about money, and wondering how you got here.
Okay, so he's painting a very quick visual picture. Fighting for the kids, fighting about money. Wondering how this woman left you.
How this woman left you lying on your back, gasping for air after she seemingly robbed you of everything you had.
Okay, now we're getting extremely visceral. Now, notice it's not an attack posture. He's not going, women are mean, they're cruel, they're vindictive bitches, and we're going to get them. It's not that. But there's some of that language creeping in here. It feels as if you've been robbed. That's very interesting language. Feels as if you've been, because a lot of guys, especially wealthy guys who they're targeting, that have gone through divorce, feel as if they've been robbed. And this is where he's going to go into this, and it's really powerful.
Years of your life, money you worked so hard for, sexless and sleepless nights after arguments. And you keep asking yourself what you did wrong. When you ask her, the answers don't make sense. And the worst part is, deep down, you wonder if it was all your fault, where you went wrong, and how to avoid something like this from ever happening again. After you separate, you start from scratch.
Now, he's just painting a very important story here. He's painting the story of the listener. Do you notice what's missing from here? There's not a single word of, I'm about to reveal a system that will help you do X, Y, and Z. My system is all about this. Not a freaking word. And we are minutes into the VSL. Not a word, not one. This is 100% about who? About the avatar. And that's why this VSL is pulling in almost $1 million a month. Okay? And it can easily get to that, easily. They're scaling it now. And if you look underneath here, I will look at a couple of things. So they call it the optimal game system, kind of a play off of Neil Strauss's famous book, The Game, I think, but maybe the game as they're using it loosely as in, do you have game, right? And he's using, this is right out of my own formula, so I know this one really well. And if you read the copy on this page, you'll see how punchy and simple it is. Simple. Certain psychological triggers that make women go crazy cause them to respect you. Look at this. Cause them to respect you. What are they talking? This is one of the key points of the avatar. They feel disrespected. If he did not know that, this would not be good. This would not be selling. Cause them to respect you. Basically hypnotize them loving the things you do. So, loving the things that you do. So you can finally put the power back in your hands and have the relationship you want. Okay, that's really powerful. That's awesome. Now, I want you to notice something else that we talk about down here. There's a concept that he reveals. We call this a negative hook. Hypergamy. Hypergamy. It's I don't know how it's pronounced. Hypergamy, I think is what it's basically it's the mindset that a woman or somebody that is dating above their social class. And what he's saying is this is a problem because women have been trained to date up. So this is what you need to know. You need to know that that's going on psychologically. But most men either don't know the term or don't know all about it. So it makes it a little sexy, makes it more interesting to do so. Then they go into, you know why men love the P word so much? It's not about the hot girls, not about lingerie. It's not about watching people have sex. It's simply about women craving a man. That's interesting. She desires him. She begs for him. Okay. What if that could have the same experience in your relationship? You should be skeptical. What's he doing here? He's saying, oh, objections? Yeah, I got it. But he uses but perfectly. Skeptical? Yeah, you should be. But, because everything comes before the word but is kind of forgotten in the subconscious. So, but here's a picture from my girlfriend's calendar. So in other words, he's got to show a picture down here. All because I knew the right frame to go into a relationship. And in other words, you should be skeptical, but here's a picture to prove it. Now, I'm not going to show you the picture. We're going to stop here. I don't want to get this video flagged. Okay, but you can go to the site yourself and check it out. But those are just some of the reasons why this thing is converting like crazy. I want to go over one more element of it. Check this out.
But she just goes out and gets scooped up by some random guy. If that sounds familiar, that's because the cycle applies to everyone. It doesn't matter if you're rich, poor, fit, fat, young, or old. It's a universal pattern that's been going on for decades. Unfortunately, I went through the same exact thing. I gave her everything she could ever ask for. It only fueled an entitled mindset. I resented all the advice
Okay, so look at the words he's using. Entitled mindset. Okay, they're talking to their avatar, but look at what he did. Total inclusion. Rich, old, young, poor. Doesn't matter what color you are. Doesn't matter what religion you're. This applies to everyone. He's super inclusive in all the language inside this VSL.
And I knew there had to be one thing that made this cycle happen. It's not like it was that difficult to meet a beautiful woman. It was only until I was in a long-term relationship that everything fell apart. I couldn't figure out what was causing this, but I knew one thing for sure.
One thing over and over again. Over and over again.
It wasn't working for me or other men out there. I kept wondering why, if this advice was so bulletproof like the movies make it seem, why do 50% of marriages end in divorce? Why don't the flowers, the gifts, the money, and the time lead to more sex, more happiness, and more respect? I didn't have the answers, but I figured someone did. And that's when I stumbled across a post from Dan Bilzerian.
Okay, now he's entering Dan Bilzerian, who is actually the guru of this offer. But now it's positioned in a sense where, hey, I am just standing on the shoulders of giants. And that's the final reason I want to talk about why this VSL works so well. It's because it's positioned as one of the best testimonial videos ever. In other words, this sounds like somebody going, look, and he's reading it very straight. He's reading it very plain. It's not very animated because he wouldn't be in real life. So this feels very, very, very real. He's reading it as if this is his exact life. He can experience exactly what they feel, exactly what they're going through. And then I met this guy named Dan, and Dan taught me everything I need to know. Now, that is the BSL breakdown for today. I hope this helps. Now get to it.